We're going to talk now about the miners' strikes in the 1980s. They might be a distant memory to many people, but later today, Parliament will hear a motion to pardon hundreds of people convicted during the violent industrial dispute.
The miners' strike pardon bill has already been passed in Scotland, but now SNP MP Owen Thompson is wanting to extend this to the rest of the UK.
Let's talk about this to the human rights lawyer David Haigh. David, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hi, David. How significant is this? What will this mean?
Well, I think as Pip said, this legislation already passed in Scotland in summer of last year. And when the legislation passed there, many said that it didn't go far enough, because it's all very well pardoning people when there's been injustices, but the legislation in Scotland wasn't extended to cover compensation for the people that have been pardoned. Because, of course, if a country is saying, sorry, we did you wrong, there should be some recompense for that. So that's the first thing in terms of what does it mean. If it passes here, it means that the people's convictions, which were things like public order, I mean, again, I was too young to remember the strikes as well, but it will mean things like convictions for public order offences at those times will be quashed, but it won't extend to compensation or other remedies.
Under what grounds would those seeking to change things, what grounds would they have for doing so? In terms of the actual legislation, we'll have to see whether it comes out. Now, I imagine there's a lot of people on both sides, on people that support the miners that think that they should actually be pardoned, and people that don't. Effectively, in Scotland, it said that there were injustices carried out against the people striking, and when a lot of them were arrested and convicted for things like public order offences, for breaching the laws at that time, they obviously lost their jobs. So the legislation here will be the same if it obviously becomes legislation. Yeah.
And if there is this miners' pardon, that would be quite a moment, wouldn't there? Because there will be so many retired miners, their families, who are still very, very affected by those days, 40 years ago?
Well, absolutely, Pip. But as I said earlier, I mean, a pardon and a sorry is one thing, but that doesn't cover the damages done to people's lives. People lost their jobs, people lost their livelihoods. If we are going to say, sorry, we did something wrong, here is a pardon, we then need to move forward, I think, and actually have more of a full gesture and make compensation payments to them. That's something that didn't happen in Scotland, and I'm sure that won't be happening here either.
And it will rewrite history. I mean, if it comes about, it will rewrite the way history was documented, the way we perceived strikers, the way we perceived the authorities, the police, the government.
Well, absolutely, Eamon. It's very interesting to look at when we pardon people for such things as strikes decades later, because now we're seeing all the Just Stop Oil strikes and the demonstrations, and at the moment, will we see in a few decades people that were demonstrating for Just Stop Oil pardoned as well, the ones that have been arrested? It's a very interesting legal point.
OK. David, we'll see how things progress today. We appreciate your take on things. So, as David was pointing out, miners convicted of offences relating to strike action in Scotland in the 80s have been pardoned, but their convictions have not been quashed. A move now to bring that to the rest of the UK.